Hi everyone, my name is Megan, and I apologize beforehand for the glare on my glasses when I read. Um, I am primarily a music teacher right now, but I help throughout the day with our third grade class. So they are who I have based my lesson plan on. Um, we're a very, very small school. We have kindergarten through eighth grade, and it's about 200 kids, all from the surrounding rural community. Um, we are 76% free and reduced lunch, and we are 100% Caucasian. Um, there's not a whole lot of diversity in our school, and most everyone is either next door neighbors to somebody or related to somebody else in our school. The student to teacher ratio is about 12 to 1. Um, at the most, we have two classes in any particular grade if it gets more than 25 to 30 kids. So, most families are low income, but we do have a few working middle class families in the area. Parent support is pretty high overall, um, but it tends to lead more towards sports than academic activities. Um, we do not have very many diverse learners, as I said, in terms of different cultures or multiple languages or different backgrounds. Um, in our particular class, we have 27 students, and they're divided into 9 girls and 18 boys. A lot of boys. There's a wide range of reading levels from first grade through sixth grade. Um, 5 students have an IEP that relates to reading or language, 3 toward reading and 2 for language. Those 2 for language are pulled out each day for speech classes, or sorry, not each day, but twice a week, with 4 other students. 8 are pulled out for Title I reading, which includes the 3 that have a reading IEP, and that's for half an hour each day. Our Title I reading is primarily the lower level readers, and they practice spelling words, and they read books more for a first or second grade level. We also have another student with an IEP for ADHD, and we primarily focus on keeping him on track and focusing on his work. He does really well with ELA. It's more just focusing on his work and math primarily. But yes, the lesson plan that I have focused on for today is ELA speaking and listening for third grade, and it's number 4. It's report on a topic or text, tell a story, or recount an experience with appropriate facts and relevant descriptive details, speaking clearly at an understandable pace. And what I primarily want the students to be able to do at the end of this lesson, our goals are: students can report on a book using relevant facts and details. Students can speak clearly and understandably in front of an audience. And students can answer questions asked by the teacher and or peers about their topic. So each semester, or each quarter actually, the students do a book report, and each time it's about something different, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or a chapter book or a picture book or their choice. So they have to stay within those parameters. And this lesson is done over a month's time. The students pick out their book, and before they start, they have to check it off to make sure that it fits within the parameters that they need it to be in. So for this lesson primarily, it was a fiction chapter book of their choice, but it had to be over 75 pages. So They have access to the school library and the class library, as well as any books at home. But the book that they want to use has to be checked so that make sure it's a fiction chapter book, 75 pages. Once they have the book, they have a month to read it and fill out the written report. Um, the written report includes their name, the title of the book, the author and illustrator, the setting, main characters, and then it has a section for the point of view. Is it a first person, a second person, or a third person point of view? And if it's a first person point of view, it asks them to tell who is the narrator, who's telling the story. They have to fill out what the problem is and what the solution was. And then the next section is a summary of the story that's broken down into 3 parts: the beginning, the middle, and the end. So they have to write a total of 5 sentences for each: the beginning, the middle, and the end, that tells about the book. The very last part is just ask them what their favorite part of the story was and why. So that's their own opinion. Once they're done with the written book report and they have read through the book, each student then does a presentation, an oral presentation, that has a couple of different parts. Everyone is given a white paper bag, such as this one, and they are asked to decorate the outside based on their chosen book. It can be the characters, a scene, or from the artwork from the cover. Once it's decorated, they have to find 5 or 3 to 5, however many items, but items that represent parts of their story to fill their bags. And it can be anything from an actual item that they have at home, or something that they found, like a leaf, say if the setting is in a park, or if they cannot find items or they don't have enough, then they can draw their own pictures for a setting or to represent an item from the story. Anything that they bring in, they have to get parent or guardian permission before they bring anything from home. I would also probably let them use things from around the room if they really needed to, or if they asked beforehand. During the oral part of the presentation, they tell the summary about their book, and they do it without their notes. I would have their notes, and they would just tell me about their story. If I felt like they needed to give a bit more of a summary, or if I saw on their paper that they had more written down, I would ask leading questions for what happened next, what about this person, that kind of thing, so that they could give a little bit more on their topic. Once they were done with their summary, they pull out each item from their bag and explain how it fits into their story. Once they're completely done, then the other students have an opportunity to ask questions such as, did you like the book? Well, what happened to this character? Why did you pick this book? Anything. So the students answer questions from their peers as well. And what I have done is I have made my own little book report. This is for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I have done the artwork, and I have items in here such as a necklace for their for the dance that they had, so they all had to get dressed up. A pair of socks that have the Hogwarts crest on it, so shows all of the houses. Small dragon figurines for the first task. when they had to pick their dragon. And I mentioned that if they didn't have enough items that they were able to draw their own. So I did the golden egg that they need for the second task, and a gravestone for when they go to the graveyard at the end of the book. And so all of these would be items that would fit into this bag. They could bring it from home, or they could make it themselves, and all relate to the story so that they could talk about it and tell about it. Modifications that I could do with this, for students who have a lot of trouble speaking in front of an audience, I would still want them to have a bit of an audience, but maybe not the entire class. So they could report to me, and they could ask one or two of their friends to come in with them and listen. So it would give them a couple people to talk to, but it wouldn't be as overwhelming. For the written portion, we could always shorten the amount of sentences needed. For the summaries, if needed, from 5 sentences to 3 sentences or something like that. For the reading portions, those students that are in the Title I reading or have a reading IEP, we could always use a shorter book than 75 pages, or could be from a lower reading level. Depends on what we find and what they would like to do, what book they would like to use. ELL students or multicultural students could choose something from their first language or a cultural story from their background that they could use, and they could tell us about that. The assessment, I would assess on their written portion as well as the oral presentation. From their summaries, did they draw information from the book, and were they able to write it and then tell it in a manner that made sense? That's part of why I separate it from beginning, middle, and end in the written portion, so that way it gets in their mind of this is what happened, then here, and then this, so that it's easier to tell. And did their summary relate to the main idea and the storyline that they told me about in their written portion? For the artwork, I am not a fantastic artist, and I don't expect all of my students to be it either. So I wouldn't necessarily grade on the quality of the artwork, but if I could tell that they put effort into it and time, and it wasn't just drawn on there that morning, or they didn't know what they were doing. So it would be more based on effort and the time spent on it rather than the skill. For the oral presentation, I focused more on the information that they were presenting and if they seemed to know the material. And if they were able to answer the questions that they were asked. Not necessarily, did they get stage fright and they weren't able to speak? Or were they soft-spoken instead of very loud? Because those are all things that can come afterwards, but the quality of their knowledge and their general presentation to the other students. So the resources that I needed for this, books from the library or my own, the report form, the written report form, white paper bags, which students are allowed to use, or would be allowed to use, bigger bags or ones that they found from home, or boxes, something else that they found, but I would give each one of them a white paper bag to start with. Crowns and markers for if we did any kind of work in class, then they could have access to that, and then students would have to use their own items to fill the bags. So yeah, that is my lesson, and I hope you enjoy.